Now, 5 years later, in 1993, when he decided he would return and contest elections, and these were the elections that were going to bring Benazir back to power for the second time as Prime Minister, he asked her for a seat,
Yes.
and she refused it.
Yes. She refused him a seat, and in fact the seat that he wanted in Larkana, that his father had run from, that my grandmother had run from, Benazir then gave to a new entry into the party, a man who had publicly welcomed Zia-ul-Haq to Larkana and presented him with an ajrak on his first visit to the city.
So the family seat of Larkana was denied to Zulfikar Bhutto's son and heir, and given in fact to someone quite different, and someone in your book you describe as a Zardari crony.
A Zardari crony and a Zia crony, as it would seem.
So in the family's eyes, this is really the ultimate betrayal.
Absolutely. Not only is it an ultimate betrayal, but the very reluctance of Benazir to allow her brother, who had been a paying member of the party since it was founded, a single party ticket, was incredibly, I think it shows her fear and how threatened she felt by it.
And also deeply, deeply hurtful.
Deeply hurtful. I mean, all he wanted was the ticket. He should have been allowed a chance to contest.
Now, in fact, your father did return. He returned in November 93, but at the airport itself he was arrested and he was jailed for the next 8 months. You were 11 at the time.
Yes.
And in your book you recount how you set a sort of challenge to your aunt. You said to her, if you are being honest and have nothing to do with his bad treatment, come and see him with us in jail tomorrow. Yes. What response did you get?
When he was jailed, I asked my aunt, who at that time had protested her innocence, to come and visit him. And she told me that she would arrange something. And as the hours ticked by and it was clear that she was not getting back to me, I began to call her, as I genuinely believed that she couldn't really be behind all this. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, I can't come and visit Mir with you in jail because I haven't been able to get permission from the jail superintendent.
The Prime Minister of Pakistan couldn't get permission from a jail superintendent to visit her brother?
Well, that's what I said. That's what I said. I just said, you're the Prime Minister. And she said, well, I can't get it, so I can't come. So it was clear then that she didn't want to see her brother.
During that period when your father was in jail, specifically on the 5th of January 1994, which happens to be your grandfather Zulfikar Bhutto's birth anniversary, Benazir actually stopped her mother, Zulfikar Bhutto's widow, from going to his grave.
Yes.
Because she felt that the mother was siding with your father, Murtaza, not with her.
And that Murtaza, my father's supporters, would be accompanying my grandmother, that it would be a show of strength for her brother, who had never visited his father's grave at that point. And again, we saw the house in Larkana, the family house, was surrounded by police. People were locked into the house, people were prevented from leaving the house, and eventually the police fired on the house. We still have the bullet marks on the gate.
In fact, you write that the bullets just missed your grandmother, Nusrat Bhutto.
A man stood in front of her. He was shot and he died later on that day, yes.
Later, your grandmother rang her daughter Benazir to ask why this had happened.
Yes.
And she was actually told that Indian raw agents had infiltrated the family home al-Murtaza.
Yes.
Did you believe that?
Oh, I don't think anybody believed that. There was an incredible show of state police and security forces in Larkana, really to prevent my family and my father's supporters from having their presence known. So when there are thousands of policemen crawling all over Larkana, how did raw agents manage to slip through this dragnet, as my father called it, of Federal Security Office? I mean, it was ludicrous.
Now, your book also tells an account of the mysterious and so far unexplained death of your younger uncle, Shahnawaz, Benazir's younger brother, in Nice in 1985. Years later, you interviewed the renowned French lawyer Jacques Verger, who was retained by the family in 85. And he sort of suggested to you that Benazir had a role or was complicit in Shahnawaz's death. Did you believe that?
Well, it was shocking to hear, and certainly not just Jacques Vergès, but Shahnawaz's daughter, Sassi, raised some questions that were very disturbing. It was a year after Shahnawaz's murder that Benazir began to negotiate with the military, the same military she believed was responsible for Shahnawaz's murder. She was reluctant to let Jacques Vergès take the case as forward as he liked. He wanted to bring into question the Pakistani security agencies, the CIA, and their possible role in the murder, and Benazir forbade it.
In fact, you quote Jacques Vergès in your book. he says, in her mind, with her two brothers, what her two brothers were doing wasn't helping her. Among the two brothers, the strongest brother was Mir. Perhaps it was necessary to get Shah out of the way because he was the weaker one.
Yes.
She got Shah out of the way.
Well, again, this is what the disturbing questions that he raised, Jacques Vergès, in that meeting. Shah Nawaz and Murtaza were both very opposed to American influence in Pakistan. They were very bitterly opposed to the American influence in Pakistan's politics. And at that point, Benazir was seeking, Jacques Vergès supposed, a way into the establishment.
So she needed to get opposition out, and if that opposition was her brother, well, she had to get him out as well.
It's a possibility.
Let's take a break at that point, Fatima Bhutto. I want to come back and put to you the one thought that must by now have occurred to the audience. Was Benazir Bhutto complicit in the killings of both her brothers? That's in a moment's time. See you after that.